Okay, today's lesson is on evaluating with function notation, lesson 4.2. So we'll start off with f of x. It is pronounced exactly that, it's pronounced f of x. This means that the equation is a function that is written in terms of the variable x and literally means the value of f at x. So we'll have certain values that we'll put in for x, and then we'll solve those functions for that. So we're typically used to seeing things written like this in our equation format. So if you have a problem like this, y equals 3x plus 1, and we are asked to put in 2 for x, so we place 2 in for x, and we typically solve, we end up with 6 plus 1, which we know is 7. And then we write our answer as y is 7. So we would list it as an ordered pair where x is 2, y would be 7. So when we write that as f of x, it's kind of like saying, well, what's y? So we would set it up like this. So for f of 2, so we're inputting whatever x is in here in this spot right here where our x was. So for f of 2, we'd substitute in 2 for x into our equation. So 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1, and we end up with the same. So the look of it is a little bit different than with our equations. So for the function where x is 2, our answer would be 7. Okay, so now we're going to look at some examples where we have some letters other than f, so we can show different equations. So f of x is right here. So if we are asked to put in 4 for x, we would want to make sure in this case to put it in this equation because both of them have an f at the beginning. Same thing with this one that has g. That one's going to go into this equation. This one has an h, so it's going to go into this equation because this one starts with h. So your letter that's sitting out front is very important to tie that in with whatever letter is sitting with our function. Okay, so we're going to start a few from scratch. So our first one here is for f of 3. So I'm going to use this equation right here because I'm starting with an f. So my x value is going to be 3. So I'm going to go ahead and substitute 3 in for x. So we end up with 12 times 3 is 36 plus 1. So my answer would be 37. I'm going to go ahead and do this one that's right below this, which says p of negative 1. So I'm going to go ahead and use the function that has the p right here in the green. So I went for p of x. My x right here is negative 1. And then here's my problem. It says negative 8 times whatever x is. Well, x is negative 1. We wrote that right there. Minus 2. Order of operations says we have to take negative 8 times the negative 1, so we get 8 minus 2. So our function for p of negative 1 is going to be 6. So if we were to graph this, we'd put it at negative 1 and 6. So we did one with f and one with p. Let's go ahead and look at this one with g. So I'm going to switch colors on that. We'll make this one red. So I'm going to use this one right here. It starts with a g and so does this. So my problem says negative 3 times whatever x is. We see here x is negative 2, so I'm going to plug that in. And then we're going to add 5. Well, negative 3 times negative 2 is 6 plus 5, so we end up with an answer of 11. All right, these work just a little bit different because we kind of have a little tail here added on to the end. So as I go through and work this first one, h of 3, I know I'm going to have to use this. So I'm putting in 3 for x still. So I'm going to put 3 in here, and I'm going to square that. I like to put this in parentheses because sometimes we have a negative value in there. Minus 4. And then I like to put brackets around that because I'm done with that part of my equation. And the very last thing I'm going to do once I get all of that solved is I'm going to add 11 to my answer. But I want to solve what's in my bracket first, and then my very last step will be to add 11. So we end up with 9 minus 4. So that gives me 5. Now I'm ready to add my 11 in. So we end up with an answer of 16. So with these, that's the big thing. Whatever's attached onto your function, you're going to do that as your very last step. Okay. I'm just going to pick one of these to do. Let's do this one here. So you basically have 4 values that you're going to put in for a process. You're going to have, actually this one we have 5. So we're going to actually work this problem 5 different times. So the first thing I'm going to do is plug in negative 10 for x, like this. So then I would have negative 10 minus 6, so I end up with negative 16 as my first answer. And then I'll put a little dividing line so I can keep that organized. So the next one I'm going to put negative 5 in for x. So I end up with negative 5 minus 6. So we have negative 11 for my second answer. My third one, we have 0. So f of 0 would be 0 minus 6. So we're putting in 0 for x. And our answer then would be negative 6. And I'm going to put f of 5. So that would be 5 minus 6, which is negative 1. And my last one would be f of 10. So that would become 10 minus 6 for an answer of 4. So just be careful on those. Make sure, whether you have 4 or 5 or however many values for x you have, make sure you're putting them all in. Okay, so this last set, I'm going to take you to this one here at the very end. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to work your way to the very inside. So that's like one that we've done before. So we're going to come up here and use our f of x, which equals x plus 13. So we're going to do f of when x is negative 1. So we're going to put negative 1 for x and add 13. So now we end up with 12. So now in here I can put 12. So now I have g of 12 next, because that was my next letter as I work my way from the inside out. So I'm going to take this 12 and I'm going to put it in here for g of 12. And as I look over here at g of x, that is x squared plus 2. So I'm going to square x and then add 2. So I have 144 plus 2 is 146. Okay, so that's g, so I'm done with that. So in this spot right here now, I have 146. But I still have this h sitting out here. So now I'm going to apply my h to that. So I'm going to take away 146 and put it in here for my h of x. I'm going to have to slide this down here because I'm running out of room. And that says to do 8 minus 4x. So 8 minus 4 times my x, which is 146. So we could take 146 times 4 first. So we get 584. So we have 8 minus 5, 84, which is 476, and negative. Oh, sorry, 576. I think that looked right. Okay, so negative 576 would be your final answer on those. So the biggest thing with these is, on all of these, you'll work your way to the inside. Like here, you would do your h of 2 first, and then do your g of that, and then you would do your f. Okay, that's it.